Hey guys, welcome to the JS Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Sequeira. Let's start it off. We're trying to do this time in English. See how it goes. Trying to reach more people. We always talk a lot about sports, video games, anime. I mean everything. So let's start it off talking about football, or as the people in the U.S. call it, soccer. I hate when they call it soccer. To me, it's football, but yeah, whatever. And we have to talk about the Champions League semifinals. Great matches. Second leg this past week. So we're gonna start it off with the first match. Obviously, it was Paris Saint-Germain against Borussia Dortmund. First leg, Borussia Dortmund won 1-0 in Germany. Then obviously they had to go back in the second leg to Paris. Everybody was, just crazy in Paris, going berserk. They thought that this was their chance to get back to the UEFA Champions League final once again. They had everything. They had the stadium packed. They had everybody naming them as favorites. Las Vegas had them as favorites. Everybody except obviously the German Borussia Dortmund fans. It was a great match. Paris Saint-Germain had tons and tons of opportunities. They had a great lineup, obviously, as they always do. Leading the attack was Kylian Mbappe. Everybody thought that they would, I don't know if win comfortably, but they would have, won at least the game because they had to beat them 1-0 at home to at least send it to overtime. Well, that did not happen. Borussia Dortmund beat them again 1-0. A great goal by Mats Hummels. As I said, Paris Saint-Germain, they had a real good pace. They had tons and tons of opportunities. They hit the woodwork 6 times over the 2 legs. So did they have a little bit of bad luck? Yes, they had a little bit of bad luck. But you also have to be efficient, and they were not efficient. On the other side, Borussia Dortmund just killed them. Every time they hit them on the counterattack, and they had basically 1v1 opportunities, they took them. They took them in the first leg at home with Niklas Füllkrug, and then they did it this time with Mats Hummels. Defense played out of their minds. A lot of young players. They've lost some big pieces as well. Gotten back a couple. Because you see this team and you see, okay, Mats Hummels is there. But he's over 30. And on the wrong side of 30. You see maybe Marco Reus, who just announced that he was going to leave Borussia Dortmund after an entire career there. But he's also on the back end of his career. They got back Jadon Sancho, who they sold, let's say it, for a ton of money to Manchester United, but he didn't really develop and didn't really get a lot of playing time under Erik ten Hag. So they loaned him back to Dortmund, and now he's in the Champions League final. Ian Maatsen, who didn't find his place with Chelsea, was loaned to Borussia Dortmund as well, and he's doing fantastic. Many people think that Dortmund are going to buy him as well. They want to buy Sancho as well, but maybe the asking price is a little bit too much. Well, we'll have to wait and see. And they just sold, of course, Jude Bellingham, who we're going to talk a little bit about after we end up, we wrap up this part. So they lost great pieces, bringing back some maybe not at their top of the game players, but they brought them to the Champions League final. Great defense, as I said. Great counterattacking. PSG didn't take their opportunities, missed a ton of shots. It is what it is. Is this a disappointment or a failure for PSG? Of course it is. You've spent over £2 billion in the last decade and a half. You've had players like Zlatan, Neymar, Mbappe, of course, um, the Messi. You've had Thiago Silva. I mean, you've had Cavani, Pastore. You've had a bunch of players, David Luiz, and so on and so forth. Now you have Marquinhos, and you've never been able to do it. They got to the Champions League final, I believe it was in 2020, the year of the COVID, when they got to the final against Bayern Munich. They lost in that final against Bayern, but that's as far as they've gone. So to have so many star players, now they have Dembele, they signed Colomwani for over 80, 100 million pounds as well. So they've done so much investing and they've had so little to show for it internationally because obviously they always win League One and they win their domestic cups. But in the biggest stages of European football, they've only reached the final once. And against a Borussia Dortmund side who's fifth right now in Bundesliga, everybody thought that it was like their shot to make it. And they closed it at home. The second leg was at home, but they couldn't do it. So that is the story for the first finalist of the Champions League, Borussia Dortmund, who, as I said, played great defensively, great on the counterattack. They had great style of play and very strategic in order to get to this final. So kudos to them. Now we have to move to the other game, and it might be the biggest, I'm not going to say biggest rivalry in European football, but one of the biggest for sure, and it's Bayern Munich against Real Madrid. First leg, it was a draw, 2-2 on each side. To me, Bayern played much better in Germany. They dominated the game, but costly mistakes by Bayern led to two goals. One, a great, phenomenal pass by Toni Kroos, and a fantastic definition by Vinicius Jr. And then the second was just a penalty. And a penalty that was very, not only costly, but very foolish because Minjai had 3-4 defenders right next to him. He didn't have to tackle in the box, and he did, and in that way they let Real Madrid back. So it was all drawn up 2-2, but now they're heading to Santiago Bernabeu. Real Madrid's home. They've won 14 European Cups. They're the biggest club in the world, no doubt about it. Heading into, I'm not going to say uncharted territory, but enemy territory for sure. More than, 70, 80,000 people in the stands. It was a fantastic environment. And guess what happened? Well, here we go. This is what happened at Santiago Bernabeu. So everything kicked off, as I said, at the Bernabeu. It was fantastic scenery. The fans were crazy. They not only were they excited, they had a magnificent environment. But the game didn't start off that well for Real Madrid. They were on the ball all the time. They were attacking, hit the woodwork a couple times. They were the better and superior team for, I'd say, the entire first half. Bayern, on the other side, were playing on the counterattack. Now, they did have, let's say, a hiccup within their lineup. Now, they started Serge Gnabry from the beginning, even though he's not been really that healthy throughout the season. And then Gnabry caught an injury, and he had to be taken off in the first half. So this changed your plans a little bit. They didn't start Thomas Müller, who did start the first leg, but they needed the pace. So what did they do? They took out Gnabry. They put in Alphonso Davies, who in the national team with Canada does play on the wings. Sometimes he plays in the middle of the park as well. So they know that not only does he have the pace, but he has the ability to help out in the attack, right? And this paid off in great respect for Thomas Tuchel because in the 68 minute, yeah, this is 68 minute, it's still nil-nil, still a draw. Alfonso Davies escapes through the left-hand side. He cuts in and just hits a magnificent shot with his right leg. Nothing to do for Andre Lunin. And that was 1-0, 1-0 for Bayern. Now, everybody was going crazy. Everybody thought that Bayern was going to advance. And everybody was like, okay, so what are we going to do now? But everybody was talking about Carlos Ancelotti. Well, he has to put in more attackers. He has to bring in more pace. He has to make the changes. And Ancelotti was really calm. He knew what he was doing. He took his time, didn't make crazy changes all of a sudden. But then as the game was progressing, he started to look, he started to lift that crazy eyebrow that he has, and he like knew it. To me, he has like the eye of the tiger. He knows when to do things and how to do them. So he started bringing off Toni Kroos, who obviously has been phenomenal for them all year, one of the best players, I'd say, in the world. He went back to the national team as well, but he knew that he needed something else. So he brings in Luka Modric, and he starts bringing in pacier players. He brings in Joselu as well, who many people, said, why do you bring this guy? He's over 30 years old. He's not a big team player, but he has scored a ton of goals for him this year. So 70th minute passes, 75th minute passes, and Real Madrid start attacking, putting pressure on Bayern's defense and, of course, on Manuel Neuer. And then everything goes crazy. A shot, a very simple shot, especially for a fantastic goalkeeper, maybe even one of the best goalkeepers of all time, right? Because everybody names Gigi Buffon and everybody names Iker Casillas. Some might name, I don't know, Lev Yashin or whatever. So obviously there's been more, but these are like two of the biggest, at least in recent times, that you name in the GOAT debate. But nobody really names Manuel Neuer. And Neuer is also a World Cup winner. He's won the Champions League. He's obviously done it at the highest level for decades now. And for him to make this sort of mistake, which reminds me of the mistake that Oliver Kahn made in the 2002 World Cup in Korea and Japan, it was just crazy. So ball comes in up to him. It was a shot on goal, but not really hard. Something that he's done, I don't know, 10,000 times, and it just falls right in front of Joselu, and then right there, boom, he hits it, equalizes. It's a 1-1 draw at the 81st minute, and then everybody who was watching the game knew this is Real Madrid's game to lose. I mean, there's no way Real Madrid is going to lose this game now, and they just kept on attacking and poured it on. So when this happened, obviously Bayern had their counterattack set up in place. However, even one time they had 3-on-1 or 3-on-2 counterattack, which they couldn't really execute correctly. They mishandled the ball, and then when Real Madrid sees this, no shot that they were going to let this away. Now, here come the questionable decisions. Real Madrid went up on the 92nd minute, I think it was the 91st minute, on a goal by Joselu. Now, it was a cross to Rudiger. Rudiger takes it, crosses it up the middle to Joselu. Joselu scores. Initially, it was named an offside, called offside. They went to VAR. VAR saw that he was onside, and the play continues, and Joselu scores. Valid goal. That's what VAR is for. Fast forward to the 111th, 112th minute of the game. There's a cross to Bayern Munich on Rudiger's side, and they call it offside. Now, they call offside immediately, which isn't like the proper way to do this. But then the other mistake that was made in this call, not only did the linesman lift the flag, but the ref immediately whistles. So when they immediately whistle, the play is canceled. Now, what happened? They crossed it to Rudiger's side. Rudiger puts it down. I believe it was to Kimmich. I don't remember the exact player. And he crosses it to the middle to Harry Kane, and Harry Kane scores. Now, there's an extra play, and that's why VAR can't be involved. Now, there was, as I said, the initial mistake was to call the offsides. You have to be 100% sure, and that's what you have VAR for. Because if the goal happens, and when they go to check it on VAR and they see he's offside, it's canceled, right? So he shouldn't have raised the flag. But the biggest mistake was the ref. The ref can't whistle immediately. He has to let the play finish, and then he can whistle. That's what VAR is for. It's to exactly limit the mistakes, not enhance them. We'll never know if Bayern was going to score, because, as I said, once the ball comes down, he then crosses it to Kane, and then Kane scores. So there's an extra play, not like with Real Madrid, which was a ball to Rudiger. Rudiger crosses it, and he scores. So that's one play, and here you have to put it down. That player has to cross it, and the other player has to score it. So it was, let's say, properly denied by VAR, because that's what it's for. But you never should have raised the flag for offside, and never should you have whistled, because obviously immediately every single player just lets the play go. If he had ended it and never whistled, the play continues, then we check with VAR if he was onside and if the goal was valid, and if we'd go to extra time. However, in my opinion, the balance had shifted so much that Real Madrid was going to win that game at 90 minutes, in overtime, in penalties, whatever. But that's not for me to say. That's just my opinion. So you have to let that go. So we will see a great Champions League final between Borussia Dortmund, who reached here by will, hard work, a little bit of luck at times, of course, and by Real Madrid, who just have the biggest champions' heart, especially in this competition. They're going to try and win it for a 15th time. I mean, it's insane what they've done, especially the last decade and a half. I mean, they've been crazy, crazy good. Obviously, they are the favorites. We'll have to see how it ends out, and if Real Madrid can win the 15th. But it's going to be really, really hard for them not to do it. It's going to take an insane game and very strategically planned. And everybody's going to have to play at 200% on the end of Borussia Dortmund to win this cup. So we'll see what happens. But this was the Champions League roundup for these semifinals. It was great. But this isn't the only thing we have. We have other sports and other sports that are doing incredibly good. We have the NBA playoffs. Now, my team, rest in peace, Chicago. The Chicago Bulls were eliminated in the play-in game by the Miami Heat. But Miami were eliminated as well by the Boston Celtics. So we're going to start off with the semis in the East and the semis in the West, and how it's played out, because we have crazy, crazy things to go, and obviously they are still in play. So let's start it off with the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, Denver beat the LA Lakers, 4-1, and then on the other side, the Minnesota Timberwolves just demolished their rivals and advanced to the semis. But everybody thinks that the defending champions, the Denver Nuggets, were just going to have like some sort of cakewalk. They're going to beat them up like they did last year. That's not exactly what happened. Here's what happened in games 1 and 2 in this series. Here we go. So in this series, as I said, both teams came in just basically demolishing their rivals. Minnesota just beat up on the Suns and swept them. The Lakers, though, they weren't swept by the Nuggets, but they were in every single one of the games. Even though it ended up 4-1, they had a shot to at least steal a couple for sure. A couple more. This could have been easily a 6 or 7 game series, but that didn't happen. So everybody thought, well, okay, Denver beat Minnesota last year pretty comfortably. They'll probably do it again. Well, that's not what happened. Game 1, really, and I always thought this at the beginning of the series. Now, what does Denver do? They play always off Jokic. He can score on the paint. He can obviously shoot from the outside. He's a walking triple-double machine, so he's gonna, dish it out to the sharpshooters. And obviously he has Jamal Nelson, who is otherworldly as well, right? But he's gonna have to do this against Rudy Gobert, who's a 4-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year, and then they also have Karl Anthony Towns. So they have Cat, they have Rudy Gobert. They have so much length in this team, and they have several bodies who are 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet. So, and there's only one Jokic. Now, Joker is phenomenal. Nobody's going to stop him, but they can limit him, right? And that's what's happened. He's still going to have his over 20 points. He's still going to get his nice share of rebounds, nice share of assists, but not a walking triple-double like he did against the Lakers, for instance. So when you see what happened in game 1, which was a very contested game 1, you see exactly what happened. Now, it was 106-99 at the end. Anthony Edwards just went crazy on this game. He scored 43 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. But when you see what the other complementary pieces of Minnesota did defensively, Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns, as I said, Rudy Gobert, he got 13 rebounds. I mean, it was just insane. And when you see on the other side what happened with Jokic, now he did score 32, as I said. He got 8 rebounds and was maybe manhandled a couple times throughout the game. Jamal Murray, he did score 17, but not many assists, only 4, just a rebound. So defensively, you can see how it's changing. And Aaron Gordon, who was a big piece against the Lakers in this series, remember, this is game 1, had nothing to do. 9 points, just 3 rebounds. He dished it out a couple times because he had 6 assists. But when you go and see that Anthony Edwards just went berserk and scored 43 points, that's where the big difference was. And as I said, it's not only Jokic. You have to see Jamal Nelson. And they have Michael Conley Jr. on him all the time, who's a little bit taller, has bigger wingspan, so he's defending him throughout the entire floor, just like a man-to-man coverage that he has on him. It's been insane. Now let's fast forward to game two. Now this game two, there was no Rudy Gobert. No Rudy Gobert for game two. And everybody thought, well, maybe Jokic and maybe Nelson get a little bit of a break. It's going to be a lower pace. That's not what happened. Let me just put it to you this way. Throughout the game, and specifically in the at halftime, this game was by 25, 30 points already in favor of the Minnesota Timberwolves. End result was 106-80. And you can see, just as I said, defensively what they did and how they matched up. Minnesota, Anthony Edwards didn't have a crazy game, but he scored 27 points, which is really, really good. But then you see Carl Anthony Towns had 27 and 12. So that's 12 rebounds right there off Carl Anthony Towns. And then, as I said, Naz Reid, 14 points as well. Alexander Walker, 14 points as well. We move over to the side of the Nuggets, different story. Nikola Jokic, yeah, he got 16 points. Not as many assists because he had only 8. And then when you see, well, why does he have 8? Well, simpler. KCP had 4 points. Michael Porter Jr., 9 points. Jamal Murray, 8 points. So they were putting so much defense on the perimeter that they said, you know what, Yoke? We don't have Rudy Gobert. Maybe you could still get some rebounds. And he did. He got 16 rebounds. Who are you going to dish it out to? Who are you going to dish it out to? They defended the perimeter so well that, as I said, you could barely see players with double digits, right? You got, let me see here. Aaron Gordon, scored 20 points. Only 4 rebounds, 2 assists, not a lot from him. MPJ, 9 points. Jamal Murray, 8 points. KCP, 4 points. Braun, 2 points. Reggie Jackson, 3 points. So they said, you know what, yo, do you. But we're going to surround everybody else in the perimeter, and they just handcuffed them. Now, the series is going to go to Minnesota. I believe that the Denver Nuggets, as the champions that they are going to come back. And I believe that they're going to win game 3, or at least make it I'd say a 2 or 3 point game. It's going to be a very, very, very close. I don't think that Minnesota is going to sweep them. However, I believe that the Western Conference champion is in this matchup. I believe it's going to be either Denver or it's going to be Minnesota. I have no faith in the Mavs. I don't think the Mavs are actually going to beat OKC. And OKC, they're a young team. They're energetic. They're pacey. But they don't have those big bodies. They don't have the wherewithal. And they don't have the experience to actually beat any of these two teams. At least that's my opinion. So that's what's going on in the West. Let's shift it up to the East. Because in the East, there is craziness going on. Let's go to the East, and let's go with that series between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. So let's take a look at the series between the Pacers and the Knicks. Game 1, 121-117 for the Knicks. Knicks had a fantastic Jalen Brunson display. He scored 40 points, or at this moment, he'd scored 40 points in 5 games already in these playoffs. He went, out of his mind again, scoring 43, 6, and 6. Also had a great contributions from Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, 25 and 24 points apiece. Their scoring has been insane, and Jalen Brunson has been otherworldly. However, on the other side of the scope, we can see that Tyrese Halliburton only had 6 points. Now he has been dealing with a lot of injury problems, and we can see that he's not 100% for sure. So they've had to, let's say, dish it out to other players who have stepped up. Pascal Siakam had 19 points, 23 for Miles Turner, 18 for McConnell. Even Obi Toppin, who was a New York Knick last year, scored 12. So a couple decisions at the end that were very, how do I put this? Weird. A kickball, couple of defensive fouls or offensive fouls that were called. Great. I want to put it this way. DiVincenzo sold the offensive foul perfectly, but that was not an offensive foul. I mean, it was more of a flop than anything else. But the Knicks took their opportunities. They scored the big baskets when they had to, and they came out winning by a small margin in Game 1. Let's fast forward this to Game 2. Now, this was yesterday. A lot of people thought that the Knicks weren't going to have as big as an impact because the Pacers, without a great Halliburton, only lost by 4 points. And maybe didn't deserve to lose, or not in the fashion that they did, because the officials, they weren't doing their best job. Let's just put it that way. Game 2 in the Garden again. Knicks had many problems, especially injury problems. OG Anunoby, and of course Jalen Brunson. So Brunson had some issues on his foot, had to leave the court a couple times, went in to get treatment, then came back to the third quarter and started playing. You can see that he wasn't at 100%. But Jalen Brunson, man, this cat is he's good. He's really good. Obviously, they did not know he was that good when they got him from the Mavs. I think that between last year and this year, they've seen his development and his evolution and what he can become. And he's not only the leader of the team, but if you put another superstar in there with him, he still might be the biggest star in the team. He still might. And he's just, you can see him, he's all New York. He's all heart. He's all guts. He's all fire. And he's been playing that way. Last night, 130 to 121, the victory for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, he did not score 40 points in this occasion. As I said, he lost a lot of minutes because he was getting some treatment. But still, with 32 minutes on the floor, he scored 29 points, a couple rebounds, 5 assists, had great help from OG Anunoby, 28 points for him. OG really stepped up last night. Josh Hart again with 19 points, big threes by him. Hartenstein again doing the dirty work and hitting timely shots, 14 points for him. And this is what's going on with the Pacers. Even though I think that they are a really good team, they need to be able to, I don't know if it's spread it out more or just play a little bit more intelligent brand of basketball, because Halliburton went off last night. He scored 34. He only scored 6 points in Game 1. So they said, look, we need you to step it up. And he did. He did big time. But Pascal Siakam only scored 14 points, 14 and 9. Not a great game for him. Nesmith, 6 points for him. Miles Turner, who had over 15 points last game, only 6 points for him. So, they need more. They need more from their role players in order to come back to the series. Now, they're gonna play. They're gonna go to Indiana, so they're gonna play at home now. And obviously, a series really doesn't begin until a road team wins. That's the old saying. That's what I believe in. So if the Knicks could do it in Indiana at Indiana, it's over. If they can win one of the next two, it's over. But I'd still have an eye out for Indiana because I think that this series has the potential to go 6-7 games. I still believe in them, even though Halliburton hasn't been 100% healthy. If he can show glimpses of what he showed last night, they can still come back in this series. And then we have another series in the East, which to me is it's not great. It's not great. I have no other ways to say this, but I don't think Cleveland can even win a game in this series. Now, Cleveland went to 7 games against the Magic, and that's how they advanced. Boston swept. Well, I'm sorry, they swept in 5 games. They beat the Miami Heat handedly, games over 10, 15 points basically every single night, except the game that they lost, which I believe it was game 2. But Cleveland, I think that they are way out of their depth in this series. That's why Boston has won so easily. And I think that they're going to do it again. They won, yes, it's only been 1 game. But when you see 95-120 that you get beat up by 25 points in the opening game of the series, I'm not going to say it's crazy, but it gives you like an idea of what this team can do to you. Now, and remember, the Celtics do not have Porzingis. He's been out also, but he's always had injury problems. He's always been injury prone. But you can see it now that even without Kristaps Porzingis, this team is just on another level right now. So as I said, 95-120. Check out a couple stats here on the Boston Celtics. 32 for Jaylen Brown, Derek White with 25 points, Drew Holiday with 14, Horford with 7, Tatum with 18, 16 for Pritchard. I mean, everybody was in double digits, over 12, 15 points a pop. And basically, for Cleveland, you could only see Donovan Mitchell, who scored 33. Now, Mobley helped out a little bit with 17 points and 13 rebounds, but Garland only 14 points, 11 for Okoro. Max Strus only had 5 points. Levert with only 4. Marcus Morris with 3 points, 4 for Tristan Thompson. I mean, this is just not going to cut it. I think, and I believe that the Boston Celtics are going to sweep this series easily. They're going to win this series easily. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what really comes up. Today is game 2. I have no expectations for the Cleveland Cavaliers to at least win 1 game. I do not think it's going to happen, and I do not think that they're going to win in Boston. So I would easily give the victory to the Cleveland Cavaliers today. So that's the roundup on the NBA side. And now we have to touch a little bit of the fighting game. And let's go to boxing, straight up to boxing, okay? Canelo Alvarez beat Jaime Munguia last weekend on a unanimous decision. It was really, really fun fight. Munguia came out swinging. He showed his pace first 2-3 rounds. Many people thought that he was going to, overwork Canelo. No shot. Canelo was just taking his time, studying, seeing where to land his punches, how to counterpunch him. And rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 onwards, he did just that. I believe it was in the 4th, 5th round where he dropped Munguia. I believe it was in the 11th round where he also clocked him with a straight uppercut that almost sent him to the floor. I even believe that Canelo kind of held him to not fall off. I think he didn't want Jaime Munguia to lose in that fashion, but he really dominated the fight. Did it with absolute grace and style, overmatched completely Jaime Munguia by Canelo Alvarez. Now, many things have come up with Canelo Alvarez. Why is he fighting? Why is he not fighting David Benavidez? Why didn't he want a rematch with Dimitri Bivol, who beat him a couple years ago? And what's going on with Terence Crawford? Now, Crawford and the Sheikh in Saudi Arabia want that fight. Now, Bud Crawford has a fight in, I believe it's in August at 154, and he went up in his weight class. I believe not only Terence Crawford is the best boxer in the planet, I believe that if he goes up in weight and if we can see him now in August win easily, like he's already won in the past, I believe that he can beat Canelo Alvarez with ease, not handedly, but with ease. I'd say, I'm not going to say a knockout because I believe that Canelo has a great chin and he is really gifted defensively. But I think it's going to be, I'd say, a unanimous decision, no doubt about it, for Bud Crawford. And if he were to beat Benavidez, if he were to fight Benavidez, Canelo and Benavidez, that's what I want to see. Because I believe that Benavidez is good. He's not exceptional like Crawford, but he is bigger, obviously. And I think that this is a more balanced fight, first of all. And I want to see Canelo against top-tier opponents beating them. Now, if he gets beat up like he did against Bivol, it's going to start, twisting heads. Is he really that good? Because honestly, if you check Canelo's record, he fought Bivol, he lost. He fought Mayweather, he lost handedly, obviously. He fought Triple G 3 times. I believe that Triple G beat him the first time. Second fight, you could say was a draw. You could even say Canelo won by a small margin, maybe, okay. And the third fight, Canelo beat him up handedly, and no doubt about it. But Triple G was already old. So when he's fought top-tier opponents, he's either lost or not really shocked anybody. And I believe that's why he's not fighting these guys. He said that he wanted to fight, if he wanted to fight Benavidez, they'd have to pay him $200 million. And if he were to pay to fight in Saudi Arabia, he'd ask double that, meaning $400 million. I believe that's just crazy talk, especially when you just made $35 million only on the prize money, only on the fight. I'm sorry, not counting the prize money and not counting obviously pay-per-view, but only on the fight. You won $35 million against Jaime Munguia. How can you make 35 against Munguia, but then you're asking for 200 up front to fight Benavidez? It doesn't make sense. It just makes no sense. It sounds like he's scared of David Benavidez. And that's what I don't want to see. I want to see him fight Benavidez. And if he beats him, awesome. Awesome. Because that means that you're on that level, on the best level. But you can't be the best if you're fighting nobodies or fighting, not the best opponents. That's what I think, at least. So we'll have to see what happens with Canelo, if he's going to fight Bud Crawford, if he's going to fight David Benavidez, or if he's just going to fight, some random guy off the street. So that was today's show. It was a bit long. I have been gone a couple weeks. Personal things that have gone by. But we're gonna start doing this more often. We're gonna try to do 2-3 shows a week, and if obviously we're gonna maintain everything on sports, but we're also gonna start talking a little bit more about video games, maybe even shows, because June and July are gonna have great shows. House of the Dragon is coming up. The Boys is coming up. We can review a little bit about Fallout, which I believe is a fantastic show. So shows are also going to be coming up. So if you liked this show, if you liked this episode, hit the like button. It always helps us a great deal. If you want to listen to more of what I have to say about sports, any sports, you can hit the subscribe button. That also helps us a lot. This was the episode today. We talked Champions League, we talked boxing, and obviously we talked the NBA. As I said, we're going to keep this rolling. I didn't want to go too much into the domestic leagues because in Italy we already have a champion, which is Inter. In Spain, Real Madrid is already a champion. Nothing to do there. In Germany, Bayer Leverkusen is already a champion, so nothing to go there. The only league that still has something to talk about is the Premier League, where Arsenal and Manchester City are still fighting to be 1 or 2. So we might have a show on the Premier League. So this was our show today. Hope you guys liked it. As I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We did it in English this time, trying to reach a bigger audience. Anything you guys need, you can leave it on the comment section. Of course, be good, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.